Why are men so much more likely to stay in a relationship that they hate, that is making them miserable, than women are? I mean, it's a scientific fact. Let's not get into the studies. The studies show, in general, men are much more likely to stay in a relationship that they hate than women are. All right, which is also why you'll see studies on women filing for divorce. Okay, they're the ones who actually do the filing. That's just the way it is. So let's not argue that point. Let's just find out why. Let's ask a couple questions as to why people have gone through this. A lot of women are going to come out and say because they're cheating, they're getting a side piece, and so they can check out at home, which is valid in some cases, but that's not the majority of cases. Let's be real here. Men are going to say because men are so much more loyal than women. And yeah, that's not really getting down. That's not self-aware enough to know what's really going on inside, in my opinion. I think that it has a lot more to do with men. We don't handle loneliness as well as women tend to. All right, this is just a general idea across the board. Women can get just as lonely as us, but they handle loneliness a little bit better than we do, I personally think. Number two, which I think is way more important, is men don't want to feel ashamed, and they don't want to feel like a failure. All our lives we've been drilled to stick it out, and so we don't want to be seen as a failure all around town. Other people will say we did it for the kids, but let's be real. Every single study shows that staying together for the kids is the worst idea for the kids, period. Okay, showing them an unhappy household and that's how relationships are supposed to be, especially during those key developmental years, is absolutely horrible for your kids. So you didn't do it for your kids. You're just justifying that to help you sleep at night because there's something else going on there. So what do y'all think it is? Why are men staying in relationships that they hate longer than women? Hit me up in the comments and let me know. Let's have a conversation.
Let's talk about why men stay in miserable relationships longer than women do. And let's not pretend we don't know the stats. The majority of divorces are initiated by women, period. So the question isn't if men stay longer in unhappy relationships. They do. The question is why. Now the video touches on a few surface-level reasons, men being afraid of loneliness, shame, failure, and those are all part of it. But if we want to take a real red-pilled look, we need to go deeper. Let's start with the sunken cost fallacy. The sunken cost fallacy is when someone continues investing in something, money, time, effort, simply because they've already put so much in, even though the outcome is clearly not worth it anymore. It's the gambler who keeps throwing money at a slot machine that's never going to pay out, just because they already lost thousands and think a win has to be coming soon. Men fall into this trap all the time in relationships. They've spent years providing, protecting, and sacrificing. So the idea of walking away feels like admitting all of that was for nothing. They'll tell themselves, I've already given her the house, the kids, the vacations, the emotional labor. I can't just walk away now. So they stay. Even when it's soul-crushing. Even when they're disrespected. Because admitting the woman never valued them the way they hoped is too painful. That leads to point number 2. Men cannot accept that they were used. And I'm going to be blunt here. A lot of men were. They were useful. He had a good job. He was stable. He was a provider. He was the next logical step after her fun in her 20s. Maybe she wasn't ever really in love with him. Maybe she saw him as the safe bet. And now she's bored. She's unfulfilled. She's finding herself. And when she leaves, she takes not just the house and half his money. She takes the kids too. That leads us to the third, and maybe most powerful, reason men stay. Because divorce isn't an equal playing field. Men know that walking away doesn't just mean ending a relationship. It means financial devastation, alimony, child support, legal fees, years of hard work wiped out. Men lose everything in divorce, sometimes even their ability to have a relationship with their own children. The family court system doesn't care about fairness. It punishes men for leaving, and sometimes even for staying too long. And what's worse? Society will still blame him. He'll be painted as the cold, distant father. She'll say she had no choice but to leave. Meanwhile, he's sitting in an apartment he can barely afford, sending checks to the woman who told him she fell out of love, while he sees his kids every other weekend if he's lucky. Now people will say, well, just don't marry then. And yeah, that's the conclusion more and more men are coming to. But for the men who already did it, who believed in the idea of family, who followed the traditional path and got punished for it, they're trapped. They can't leave without losing everything, financially, emotionally, socially, and they can't stay without losing themselves. So they stay, in misery, in quiet desperation, and people call it loyalty, but it's not always that. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's denial. And most often, it's the inability to accept that she never loved him the way he loved her. Because that would mean admitting that all the sacrifice, all the effort, all the years meant nothing to her. And that's a truth most men just can't bear. So they stay, they suffer, they tell themselves they're doing it for the kids, or for their vows, or for some fantasy that she'll come back around. But she won't. Because when a woman checks out emotionally, it's already over. You're just the last one to know.
Genuine question. How many moms that are married or have partners that are involved are doing the majority of the work anyways? Like, I just dropped my daughter off at a birthday party. When I had a partner, I would have been doing the same thing anyways, doing the running around, doing the shopping, doing the food prep, working, bringing in my own paycheck. And the majority of the time I was actually paying most of the bills on my own too. Hello, doll. So I'm curious why people think it's harder to do it alone when you're doing it alone and also taking care of another adult.
Let's talk about the dangerous mindset of scorekeeping in modern relationships, especially when it's coming from women who view relationships as a constant competition of who's doing more. In this video, the woman lays out her frustrations, acting as if women are always the ones overperforming, overgiving, and undervalued. She frames the entire relationship dynamic around one-sided suffering. But here's the red pill truth. She's keeping score, and she's keeping it dishonestly. She tallies every chore, every emotional moment, every piece of communication, and uses that as evidence that women are the true MVPs of relationships. But let's stop right there. She's counting nickels while ignoring the gold bars. Because when men keep score, especially when it comes to financial provision, protection, or stability, they're told to shut up. They're told they're insecure, ungrateful, or not real men. Think about it. When a man says, "I pay the rent, I cover the groceries, I take care of the bills, I maintain the car, I fund the vacations," society tells him, "That's your job. That's what a man should do." But when a woman says, "I did the laundry, I cleaned the bathroom, I had to remind him to text his mom," suddenly she's Mother Teresa and deserves a medal. That's not equality. That's entitlement dressed up as victimhood. Scorekeeping is a symptom of a transactional mindset, not a loving one. The moment someone starts listing everything they've done in a relationship, they're not doing it out of love. They're doing it to leverage power. They're doing it to build a case for why they're owed something. More validation, more effort from the man, more control over the dynamic. But let's go even deeper. Why do women get away with this behavior? Because modern culture encourages them to undervalue what men bring to the table. Emotional support, masculine stability, problem-solving, financial provision, all of these are either invisible to her or dismissed as expected. Meanwhile, anything she does, no matter how minor, is seen as extraordinary. And let's not forget how weaponized this scorekeeping becomes during conflict. She'll use it to guilt-trip him, to justify poor behavior, or to threaten pulling away unless he steps up. But what happens if a man says, "Hey, I've done X, Y, and Z, and you're still unhappy?" He's labeled emotionally abusive or accused of keeping receipts to manipulate her. The truth is, scorekeeping is not about fairness. It's about framing. It's about painting men as lazy, careless, and emotionally bankrupt, while women are framed as tireless saints. It's a one-sided narrative that completely erases the invisible burdens men carry, the pressure to provide, to protect, to absorb stress silently, to solve problems without complaint, to be the emotional anchor when things go wrong. And here's the kicker. When a man does all of those things and still gets treated like he's not doing enough, what motivation does he have to continue investing? This is how relationships become toxic. When a woman only measures what she contributes and refuses to see what her man is sacrificing, she breeds resentment. And when men aren't allowed to express that resentment without being attacked, they shut down. That's when the relationship is already over. It's just waiting for the paperwork. So, men, take this as a warning. If your woman is constantly keeping score, that's not love, that's accounting. And guess what? You'll never win. Because the scoreboard is rigged. Her effort counts twice, yours doesn't count at all. She wants recognition, applause, and compensation. but you're expected to give, perform, and protect. No questions asked. A truly healthy relationship doesn't look like a spreadsheet. It looks like two people who appreciate each other's strengths, give without expecting, and don't weaponize their sacrifices. But if you're with someone who constantly plays victim while ignoring your value, you're not in a relationship. You're in a competition you weren't supposed to enter. And here's the final red pill. A woman who keeps score will never be satisfied, because she's not looking for equality. She's looking for leverage. Walk away. You don't have to prove yourself to someone who refuses to see you.
Y'all, they about to garnish our wages. So you mean to tell me I went to school and y'all lied to me?
Starting in May, for the first time since 2020, they're going to start garnishing people's wages who haven't been paying back their student loans. And all over the internet, you can find people reacting with anything but personal accountability.
Generations of Americans have been told that if they went to college and they did the right thing, took out these loans, that it would be worth it.
Nobody has been saying you could get any degree you want for any amount of money and it would pay off. If you got a low value degree or you paid too much for your degree, that is your financial mistake to pay for.
Because whoever is making these decisions clearly does not care about American people or citizens at all.
Notice how all these people are pointing fingers. Oh, everybody told me that it would be worth it. Oh, everybody lied to me. Oh, whoever's making these decisions doesn't care about the American people. You have had 5 years to get your finances in order. Wages have not been garnished to pay for these loans for 5 years, and you are still pointing fingers at everybody except for yourself.
So let me get this straight. You signed for the loans, spent the money, got the degree, and now that the bill's due, suddenly it's unfair? Look, life doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about your signature. You borrowed the money, you cash the check, you pay the price. And now, with the Trump administration set to restart wage garnishment for student loan debt, people are acting shocked, like they weren't warned. Let's break this down, red pill style. You don't get to opt out of reality. Student loans aren't some magical pot of gold. They're contracts. You took out money, usually from the federal government, with the promise to pay it back. That's not patriarchy. That's not oppression. That's called being an adult. You used that money for your education, or to party, or to chase a dream. And now the consequences are real. And no, student loans can't just be wiped away. Why? Because student loans are federally backed and designed to be non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. That means even if you go broke, you still owe. Why do you think they're so easy to get in the first place? Because they're bulletproof for the lender. So when women, who, by the way, hold nearly 2/3 of student loan debt, start crying about how unfair it is to pay them back, what they're really saying is, I want someone else to suffer for my decisions. Guess who that someone else usually is? Men. You better wake up. Fellas, let me make something painfully clear. If you marry a woman with massive student loan debt, you're signing yourself up for a financial death sentence. Here's how it plays out. She's got $80,000 in loans from that psychology degree she never used. You come in, start building a life together, and suddenly your money is going to cover her mistake. The trips are canceled. The savings disappear. Oh, and your credit? Say goodbye if you start combining finances or co-signing anything. Now she's pressuring you. If you love me, you'll help me pay it off. Translation. I made the mess, but I expect you to clean it. You'll be sacrificing your financial future, your investments, your freedom, your options, to fund her past. And when it's all paid off, she might decide she's bored and leave. But guess what? She's debt-free now. And you're broke, bitter, and paying child support on top of it. The entitlement is insane. This belief that women shouldn't have to repay student loans? It's just another symptom of the entitlement culture. It's the same mindset that says, men should pay on the first date. He should provide even if I don't work. I deserve a lifestyle, even if I can't afford it. But when the bill shows up, suddenly it's oppressive and unjust? No, it's called reality. And reality doesn't negotiate with your feelings. Responsibility is gender neutral. Here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, you don't deserve forgiveness just because you're female. You don't get financial absolution because you're struggling. We're all struggling. The difference is, Some people take accountability. Others whine on TikTok and wait for the government to rescue them. Newsflash. That forgiveness you're begging for? It doesn't come from thin air. It comes from taxpayers, which includes blue-collar men who didn't go to college, who didn't rack up debt, and who now have to pay for your mistake. It's economic theft, dressed up as compassion. Men make better choices. Gentlemen, here's the red pill. Her debt is your problem, and the second you say, I do. Courts don't care who signed the loan. They'll treat that household debt like it's joint, especially if she stops paying. You'll have to clean up the mess, legally, emotionally, and financially. So protect yourself. Vet the women you date. Ask about their debt, unapologetically. And if she gets offended, that's a red flag. Because a woman who expects you to rescue her from her own financial choices will expect to be rescued forever. Accountability is attractive. Ladies, if you're in debt, fine, own it. Make a plan. Start paying. Show responsibility. That's attractive. But don't expect someone else to carry your burden and call it love. And men, stop playing the savior. You're not Captain Fix Her Life. You're not a bailout program. You're not responsible for saving her from herself. In today's world, your wallet is your power. Guard it like your life depends on it, because in this system, it just might.
Now, another really important reason why people end up single is they have an excessive and inflated version of themselves. They seem to think that they are settling when truly they are just connecting to people on the same level. How you know you have an inflated version of yourself is the people you like never like you back, because the people that are approaching us are feedback. Pornography for men will have men thinking that they deserve a really beautiful girl, and then when they go on Tinder and they go on matches on websites, they can't. Those girls are not looking for them. Or you have this idea that I want to be with a rich, successful, tall guy. He's not looking for you. If you're a man or woman and you go for a lot for a particular physical type, but that physical type either is not attracted to you back or is treating you really badly, change your type to a person who treats you well. Change your type to a person who's emotionally available. Change your type to a person who's grateful, a person who makes you feel desired. Change your type to a feeling rather than...
Let's unpack the idea that men are delusional because of porn, and that they aim too high because they've got this fake fantasy standard in their head. That's the narrative we're hearing here, but it completely misses the bigger issue. Because if you want to talk about delusion, you need to look at where the real damage is coming from. Not men watching porn, but women using dating apps. Now, here's a fact that you won't hear in mainstream conversations. Women control access to sex, and men control access to commitment. And what dating apps and modern hookup culture have done is give women infinite access to attention, validation, and short-term hookups with the top 10% of men. Not men on their level. Not men who want to build something. Top-tier men. Men with looks, status, height, money. So what happens? Women start believing that this is their new baseline. They swipe, match, go on a few dates, maybe hook up with a guy who's a solid 9 out of 10, and suddenly she thinks, this is what I deserve. Never mind that the guy never calls again. Never mind that he had 5 other options lined up. Never mind that he's not texting her back. The fact that she had access, even briefly, convinces her that he is her level. That's real delusion. Now contrast that with what happens to men on dating apps. Most men are invisible. The data is brutal. Over 80% of women are swiping right on the top 10 to 15% of men. That means the average guy gets almost no matches, no responses, and if he does match, it's usually with someone who's not even serious. So if a guy overestimates his value, he gets instant rejection. That's real-world feedback. There is no cushion for his ego. The market humbles him, fast. But for women, even the average, even the below-average woman can match with the top-tier man just long enough to inflate her ego permanently. So when a man with genuine intentions, maybe not rich, maybe not 6 feet, maybe not a model, approaches her, she thinks she's settling. She thinks she's lowering her standards. She's not settling, she's just being offered what she can actually keep. Because here's the kicker. Women can get the high-value man, but they can't keep him. That's what this speaker is missing. Porn might distort what men want, but it doesn't distort what they get. The average man isn't out here dating supermodels and Instagram baddies. He knows who he can get. He's reminded of it every day. But the average woman is surrounded by simps, DMs, likes, flirty coworkers, thirsty guys in her comments, all giving her the illusion that she has endless options. So when things don't work out, it's never her fault. It's always that men are trash, or men are emotionally unavailable, or men are intimidated. Number you just shot way out of your league and got used. And that's the real tragedy of modern dating. Female delusion has consequences. Because men don't get to live in a fantasy. Their rejection is immediate, constant, and measurable. But women? Women can ride the carousel of top-tier men, thinking it's their standard, only to hit 30, 35, and realize those men are still dating younger women, still not committing, and suddenly, the pool is bone dry. And you want to blame men for being delusional? Porn isn't the reason men have high standards. Biology is. Men are hardwired to want youth, beauty, and fertility. That's not delusion. It's instinct. Women, on the other hand, are encouraged to believe they can get it all. The rich guy, the tall guy, the loyal guy, the funny guy, the emotionally available guy. And he better worship the ground she walks on. That's not instinct. That's cultural brainwashing. The final point is this. Telling men to change their type because the women they want don't want them is actually solid advice for women. Because women are the ones consistently aiming for men who don't take them seriously, ignoring men who would actually commit, and then blaming the entire male gender when it doesn't work out. At least when a man gets rejected, he learns. When a woman gets rejected, she rewrites the narrative to protect her ego. So if we're going to talk about who's delusional, let's be honest. It's not the guy watching porn. It's the girl with 150 Tinder matches who thinks she can wife the man every woman wants. That's the lie. That's the illusion. And that's what's breaking modern relationships.